With over 500,000 trees and shrubs already planted and growing, it's easy to forget you are in the city. We don't just say, we do. It's the Stained City way.
Welcome to Real Talk with me, Anele Mdoda. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines being transgender as a person whose gender identity differs from the biological sex the person had or was identified with at birth. Transgender people live under dramatically varying circumstances around the world, not just in South Africa. Some often face violent discrimination and feel grossly misunderstood. And for many South Africans, the idea of transitioning remains taboo. So weeks ago, we had actress Shimende, who every day gets to get into a role as a transsexual. But for my first guest, this is no act, it is his life. Born Lebogang, he grew up as a lesbian, but there was always a gnawing sense of being incomplete until he confronted and accepted that he was born in the wrong body. He's on the show. We're going to have a chat with him. Welcome, Roderick.
Thank you for having me.
The first thing you said to me, I'm going to out you because this is what I do. You can never tell me a secret because me, I'm a blabbermouth. The first thing he said when he walked in was like, please be nice to me. Please be nice to me. I'm always nice.
Yeah, you are.
Look at me. Is this not the face of a nice person?
Oh, I mean, it's my first time meeting you, so yeah.
Oh, okay. So we're doing that thing where we're getting to know each other. So when they say that you had like a sense that you knew that something was not right, when does that approach you? When you're 6, when you're 10, when you're 16?
Well, I don't think one actually ever really knows from birth that, you know, they are born in the wrong body until they actually get to interact with other people. So I can say that for me, it was at the age of 8 that I actually realized that, you know, something isn't right.
Yeah.
But what it is, I just didn't know. So I just kept on living and, you know, to find getting into primary school, getting into high school as well. I've never ever interacted with a transgender person before. I didn't know what transgender was. The only people that I saw were girls who liked girls. I was born as a girl. I'm attracted to girls. For me, that made sense.
Okay, so could you then say, okay, I'm lesbian?
That's when I kind of said, okay, maybe this is what's happening. So I settled there because it kind of made sense at that point in time.
And also, that's a pretty big step, right?
Yeah.
To be a black person who grows up in Soweto, and then you have to tell your family that you're lesbian. Did you tell them or did you keep that to yourself?
They kind of figured it out.
Oh, was it the baggy jeans?
I did not like dresses. I did not like skirts. I was always with the boys. I was just a rough young one growing up. And even though, I mean, my mom, you know, wanted to buy me dresses and all of that, I would just hang on to that one pair of jeans that I had.
And that's what you'd wear all the time?
Yeah.
I heard you used to hide your school dresses.
Yeah.
So you used to hide your school dresses so that you could wear pants,
So
and your mom used to hide your pants so that you could wear dresses. So there's like a tug of war happening in the house.
So she had that one skirt that, you know, she knew if she wanted to punish me, that like, you are going to wear this whether you like it or not. I remember in high school, I think the first 2 weeks of high school, I wore a skirt. That was like torment for me, like. And again, going into high school, I had friends from primary school which were boys. We went into the same high school. We all walking, which are guys all walking, but then this one guy is wearing a skirt. It doesn't make sense.
So cute.
So yeah.
Like, did you lose a bet? Why are you wearing a skirt? So then, what? Because you say at 8 years old you understood that okay, something is not right. So then, when you are in high school, you accept that, you know what, I'm a girl that likes girls. How does that like buy you time for a bit until you realize, no man, this is actually still deeper?
even though, as I say, that I settled as being a girl who liked other girls, in the back of my mind I knew, because I remember there's a friend of mine I approached in grade 8, which was in
Standard 6.
2003. Yeah, 2003. So I approached my friend and I told her that, you know what, I get that you're lesbian and you like girls, but however, I still want to have like a sex change. Back then I called it a sex change. Yeah. So I still want to have no boobs. I still want to have, you know, a penis. And that's where we left the conversation. We never spoke about it ever again.
So now you were aware that you could have a sex change, which is transitioning. You were aware that it's something you could do.
Yeah.
So you're aware that there were transgender people who were just born in the wrong body and you're not strange.
At that point, I didn't know it was transgender.
Yeah.
I've seen in movies growing up, you've seen this like, I don't even remember the name of this movie, but this girl went to bed praying that, you know, can I please wake up as a boy? Can I please wake up as, and the next morning she actually woke up as a boy. And the family didn't understand, you know, what was happening, but for me, somehow I related to that.
Nice.
So yeah, ever since then I knew that, okay, it is possible, but which route to go about it, I didn't know.
So when you do decide you get the route, is it not expensive? Okay, clearly it is.
Yeah, it's hectically expensive. But again, fortunately and unfortunately, the public health care also offers.
Why would you say unfortunately?
It's very tedious. It's frustrating. It's depressing. At the current moment, I'm transitioning through the public service, public health care. So from 2012, I've been with them until now, and the procedures that I've had, it took time. At some point, I actually even broke down. Like, I just couldn't handle it.
How do you grow a beard? I mean, a mustache. Is that part of the trans? Because I mean, that you didn't have. Don't laugh at me.
How do you know? No. Well, part of transitioning is taking hormones.
Hormones. Okay.
Yeah. But then that's a personal choice. Not every trans person takes hormones. So for me, okay, well, I will be taking hormones for the rest of my life. And I've been taking them now, I think, for 2 years, if I'm not mistaken.
And there's no side effects? It's...
For me, not that I've noticed, apart from just the migraines, long-term liver failure.
So you must drink water?
Yeah, a whole lot.
Okay. All right.
Luckily, I don't drink alcohol. So.
You don't drink alcohol? You're a different kind of guy. I think the side effects are a good haircut and being shy, because those are two things that you have.
Let's carry on.
No, we can't carry on. We're going to take a quick ad break, but you're not going anywhere. You're coming back. Later, I'll have you and I think it's Anastasia on the couch at the same time, and we'll have a chat. Thank you so much for opening to us. See, that wasn't terrible. On the way. I'm going to say goodbye to Roderick for now, but he'll be back later in the show. After the break, I'll be talking to another transgender person who has had to endure discrimination, prejudice, and rejection. We'll be right back after this. Real Talk. Today, we're discussing the transgender community, and my guest right now is a medical doctor and transgender female activist who has written a compelling memoir that chronicles her journey titled Always Anastacia, a Transgender Life in South Africa. Welcome, Dr. Anastacia Tomson. Off the bat, I'm going to complain about your book, which I loved, but let's talk about this. I want to read this. Many people act as if they have rights to transgender people's bodies, asking us intimate and inappropriate questions and expecting answers. Some touch without permission and become offended when we rebuke them. People fixate and quiz us on our sexuality. They ask us about our genitalia, whether we've had surgical procedures, whether we intend to, how we knew, who we've told, whether we sit or stand to pee, how we have sex. transgender people who wish to sink into anonymity live the peaceful life for which they fought for, and unending empathy. Now, when I read this, because obviously I was reading it so you could come on and I could ask you questions, I was like, oh my word, those are all the questions I want to ask. And in the opening of a book, she just told me that I can't, so
I know,
fine.
I preempted it. I put it on the first page. It's like, don't even go there.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Some stuff is
I was
off
like,
limits.
Anastasia, then what am I going to ask you? But it's fine.
Yeah.
You say that you've always felt like a bit off-center, disjointed, not feeling like that your axis is in the right place.
Yeah.
As a kid, you know, how do you know that, and who's the first person you speak to?
This is the thing. As a kid, especially for my generation, especially in South Africa, a lot of the time you don't know. And that's the problem. No one sits you down and says, listen, you don't have to fit this mold that society is going to impress on you, that your parents are going to impress on you, that the school that you go to, that the media you consume is going to impress upon you. So if you understand that you're different, you don't always have the tools, you don't always have the language, you're not always informed of the concepts to understand what it is about you that is so different. And that's one of the problems. We're not talking about it.
When was the first time you saw someone that you could relate to and it made you feel a little bit normal in that instance?
You know, it's a difficult question to answer because so much of the representation of trans people in the media is so problematic. We are sensationalized, we are objectified. You know, everyone kind of wants to take your story that belongs to you and twist it to fit into this mold that they can package to the mainstream audiences because that's what people want to see. So all of the depictions in media that I saw of trans were actually pretty toxic. And it took a really long time for me to start meeting and interacting with actual real-life trans people in the world.
Just want to live a normal life.
Exactly.
Do their 9 to 5. Because every time, you know, growing up as a young adult from about 16, which was when I was aware of transgender, it was always in some beauty pageant where it's drag queens. And do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And it doesn't become about the person. It becomes about the fact that they're trans.
Yes.
So once you're trans, that is all that you are. Everything else just disappears. It doesn't matter what your passions are, what your hobbies are, what your skills are. You can be an absolute intellectual genius. You can be...
But you're trans.
You're trans. That's all you'll ever be.
Yeah. Another thing that you said in your book is, I'm asking you to read this book and, you know, hear my story, live my story, but most importantly, I'm asking you for compassion. And immediately, it solved every problem that I think the world has, that we just don't have compassion. When was the first time you felt compassion from someone when you know, you were a transgender person?
You know, this is the thing. You kind of, people ask you all the time, when did you come out? And I say, well, when did I come out to who? When did I come out to myself? When did I come out to friends? When did I come out to family? When did I come out on Facebook? Coming out, I say it's like an art and it's not a science. You never really know what's going to happen. So sometimes the responses that you get will surprise you. And sometimes you think, I'm going to meet with compassion, and instead you meet with hostility. Sometimes the opposite happens. But really, you know, that sort of moment when you stand in front of someone and you're about to kind of disclose this very profound, world-altering truth about yourself, and they embrace you with love and with just pure empathy. It is a special moment. Too few of us have those moments in our lives.
You spoke about skills. You're a doctor, right? And you say the one time, because you used to work in Mpumalanga in the rural side, and every time the phone rang in Mpumalanga, you knew that somebody was dead or dying because you know, it's there. But in the leafy suburbs of Johannesburg, every time the phone rings, it's a pharmacist just looking for a prescription or a script, whatever. And this time the phone rings and someone says, "There's photos of you on the internet dressed as a woman. What's going on? Why did you go cold there if you were already leaving your house as a woman?"
So this is the thing. There was a time in my life, and it happens to many of us, where we're actually still forced to kind of keep up the pretense and to carry on that performance for various reasons. You know, I started that job presenting as male. People read me as male, and that was who they knew. I had come to understand in the intervening time that this is not my truth. This is an inauthentic life. continuing to live it is ultimately going to kill me. But again, you know, the world and the systems that we operate and live in and move in, they're not always sensitive to that. I mean, imagine if you could just say, oh, I figured out I'm trans, I'm going to start presenting differently, and no one cared. I mean, if you show up here tomorrow and you start telling people that you're a man, you're going to face some prejudice. That's the fact of the matter. And the same happened to me.
And you say you were asked to resign and you almost lost your job. So now you're fighting, you know, this transitioning thing. You're also fighting to keep your job. You know, who's your person in all of this? Who's giving you the support?
You know, this is the thing. It takes a toll on ourselves, and it takes a toll on everyone around us. I mean, I think it comes out pretty clearly in the book, but I had a very good relationship with my employer. He was very sensitive, and it's almost like society pigeonholed him, and, you know, I understand the difficulties in that. At the same time, you know, we say, well, you always have a choice. How much of a choice is it on your part as a trans person, wrestling with dysphoria and distress and depression and anxiety? It's life-threatening. This is the truth. It's very difficult to find someone to lean on. And I think the best answer that I can give you, especially because people don't always know how to relate to trans experience, sometimes it's very out there. I think the best answer I can give you is that you need a diverse support network. You need
different things from different people.
You need to let as many people in as are prepared to be let in. You know, you really have to say, I can't do this on my own. I'm willing to take whatever support I can. This is a big, big thing.
Listen, you coming back later. We're going to take a quick ad break. But before you go, I just want to say that for anyone who wants more information about, you know, transgender and the entire process, I found this book to be really good because also you weren't imposing yourself, you know, which is what people think. Like, oh, it's the transgenders, they're just pushing their agenda, you know, stop, you know. You weren't imposing. It was a very honest story. It was a very, like, honest tale. And I think that there goes the book. I think that if you want to know more about this, make sure you get the book. Thank you so much to Dr. Anastacia Tomson. She'll be back in a bit. When we return, we look at exactly what gender dysphoria is after the transitioning process from an expert's point of view. Don't forget that we're also running that weekly competition. An e-gift card worth 5,000 Rand is up for grabs. The details are on your screen. If they're not on your screen, change your screen. And welcome back. If you've just tuned in, today we're focusing on what it means to be transgender in South Africa. A transgender person who transitions will surgically change their physical and sexual features, but a big ocean to navigate through before any of this happens is the years of working through the psychological stuff. My guest now is a clinical psychologist, Ethelwyn Rebelo, who is revered as one of the best specialists for people with gender disorders.
I think you're being too kind.
Really?
But anyway.
I mean, but you're here. Wait, let's decide after the when you're done whether I'm being kind or not. Okay, write the test first and then we'll see how well you do. First question in your exam, miss. Can we define the difference between sexuality and gender?
Well, sex is a biological term, and it refers to biologically whether you're male or female. Gender has to do more with the role that you take on. It's more of a social term. So you may be biologically male, but take on a female gender. So generally, when people speak of sex, they're speaking in biological terms. The baby is a male sex or a female sex. However, how the child then decides to present themselves, or then that's gender. That has to do with roles, the sort of behaviors and presentation.
So, I mean, with both Anastasia and Roderick, what was the same was that they said from a young age, you're 8, you're 6, you feel discentered and in your own body. Let's say I'm a parent and I'm watching this. And not that like it's like they're sick, whatever, but what am I looking out for in my son when I pick up that this is not who he wants to be?
Well, I think one has to children with respect and allow them to be whoever they want to be. I think little girls want to play with boys' toys, and boys should be allowed to do so, and vice versa. A lot of children do take on opposite gender roles, the sort of traditional girl who's a tomboy and so on. Not all of them grow up to become to realize that they're transgender. Some turn out to be gay, and with some they then take on their socially assigned gender role. So it does not necessarily mean that your child is going to be transgender. However, by puberty, you know, you know, and if at puberty your child is still indicating that they feel wrong, it's probably a good idea to put them on puberty blockers. To give them a chance, if that is required, to make sure that they're making the right decision. It's very important, particularly, and maybe Dr. Thompson can correct me later on, but I think it's particularly important with male to female, because puberty, but also for female to male, puberty does a lot of damage. Little boys develop Adam's apples. Their voices deepen, and it becomes very in all kinds of things. So what puberty blockers do is they're not harmful. They just sort of keep keep development
so basically
stable.
It's like, let's keep the growth at bay until you decide. Until
you're absolutely sure that that's what you need, and that's really what one would wish that more parents did with their teenagers who were exhibiting those feelings. A lot of the time what parents do is they say, oh, you'll grow out of it, or let's go into therapy and maybe therapy will change you. Now, research has shown that therapy does not change people's gender identity. So for that reason, the role of therapy should only be supportive
of the transitioning phase.
If you think that sending your child to therapy, you're going to get your child to change their sense of gender identity, then you're on a hopeless course.
I was reading that when the transitioning is happening, the medical transitioning now, that you can't do that without going through the therapy and the psycho something. Sorry, it loses me now. Not that smart. Is that a must, and why is it a must?
Well, it goes back to some of the standards of care that were in place in America. South Africa doesn't have its own standards of care. The latest standards of care have done away with that. But we don't have our own standards of care, and in South Africa, the health profession still follows that procedure. Look, it's important that children are, or that a person is assessed by a psychologist and a psychiatrist to ensure that there is no mental illness. A kid could be psychotic, they could have an actual mental illness. So you do want to rule that out. In most instances, people are actually fine. They have the only thing that's wrong in their lives is that they're not happy with their bodies, they're not happy with the way they feel forced to be, and those around them are not supportive.
So the one big question that always comes up, and you said it earlier, that you block the puberty, and then maybe your child is just gay or lesbian, and then if there's still like a dissent when you feel okay, fine, then they're not identifying with the right gender at that point in time. Let's say, okay, fine, you transition, you're a guy, you transition, and you become a woman like Anastacia did. So are you lesbian, or are you a woman who likes men? Because and it's such a terrible question to be asking. We look so ignorant when we ask it, but you just want to know. Does it vary?
Yes, it varies. Sexuality and gender identity are in a way separate. So you will get a person who say transitions from male to female,
yes,
who's sexual, who's interested in females as a male, and continues to be female. So they transition from being heterosexual to gay, and you get people who transition from being gay to heterosexual. So it does not follow sexual orientation. It's fundamentally, we are dealing with a huge diversity in human sexual behavior and gender identity.
And what we're saying here is it's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Okay.
It doesn't harm anybody except for the person who's having, non-acceptance just harms the person who's having to grapple with these issues. No one chooses to suffer in this way. I don't believe, and of course my colleagues, my friends might say differently, but I don't believe it's a choice.
Yeah, I agree.
It's something that for whatever reason
Yes, it is.
Yes, there has been research. I was speaking to Dr. Thompson earlier. She was saying some of it is not so certain, but there has been some biological research that have picked up on certain things. But I think matters are still not very sure biologically. I have seen so many transgender people whose unhappiness has started at such an early age, across a variety of upbringings and across a variety of contexts, that personally I suspect that we are going to find a biological reason in due course, but at this point, as I understand it, there is no definite certain cause.
Ethelwyn, 10 out of 10. You did well in the exam.
Oh, good.
You did well in the exam.
I hope my friends think so too.
No.
Because I shouldn't be speaking on their behalf.
No, don't worry about it. You're enlightening me, who knows nothing about it, and you did a great job. Thank you so much for joining us. Ethelwyn Rebelo, thank you to her insightful insights. I don't know if that makes sense. It's time for another quick break. When we return, Roderick and Anastasia rejoin me together with an LGBTi and human rights activist. Come back to us. And welcome back to Real Talk with myself, Anele. Today, we're looking at what it means to be transgender and the challenges faced by this community. I'm back again with Dr. Anastacia Tomson and Roderick Kgosi. Joining us now is also LGBTi activist and founding director of human rights organization Access Chapter 2, Steve Letsike. Chapter 2, that's part of the Constitution. If for those of us who don't know,
got it.
Got it. Yes, Anele got it. What does it say in that Chapter 2?
It's the Bill of Rights.
Yeah.
It's in fact emphasizing the non-discriminative clause, which is that nobody should be discriminated on the basis of sexual orientation, gender, sex, and any other grounds, whether nationality and so forth. And it emphasizes equality, that people must exercise their rights and the responsibilities that comes with it.
And is that what you guys do? Make sure that
Our right
people's
is to
rights
promote,
are protected.
Promote, protect, and fulfill those rights.
Now, when you read up about transgender people and you speak to Dr. Anastasia and you speak to Roderick, and we didn't chat about this earlier, but I know there's a struggle when it comes to homophobia, right? Yeah. You are no longer a female, you've become a male, or you're no longer a male, you've become a female. Why is it such an uphill to change that at homophobia?
You see, I think a lot of service points, whether home affairs, whether health, whether social services, lacks competency. They don't understand diversity and they don't understand LGBTI issues. But that does not necessarily give them the right to discriminate in any grounds. We are 23 years in the democracy, and with this constitution, we need to be putting services point first. There's legislation, there are laws that protects LGBTI people in South Africa. And if you don't understand, reach out. That's why there's capacity building within. So what we're seeing more and more LGBTI people don't receive competent services at health, at Home Affairs, and it's particularly around Home Affairs. Just about a week ago, we're dealing with a young trans man who died, and we needed his birth certificate. It was stuck because of the ID changes within Home Affairs. And these are some of the challenges trans people experience.
Anastasia, you are nodding a lot. Do you want to come in there and give us a bit of your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I can share my personal experience with Home Affairs. It was nightmarish. What I really want to put out there, what people need to understand, what can you do in this world without an ID document? You cannot go to the bank. You cannot get a job. You cannot travel. You cannot fly. If you get pulled over by the Metro Police, you'll be taken to a holding cell. These are the things that happen when your ID document is not in line with who you are. And it compromises you, because now I walk into FNB and I have to explain to the teller behind the desk, who's a complete stranger to me, exactly my entire life story about that I'm trans, that this is what's happening, that this is why the ID, and you have to apologize. You have to, like, as you hand them the document, you have to say, you know, I'm so sorry. You bat your eyelashes and you giggle a little bit and you say, you know, there's a really old photo here, and you just hope that whoever takes this document from you is going to treat you like a human being.
So your documents right now, they are not of Anastasia?
They are of Anastasia,
now,
but it took a year from the time that I applied in order to get that done. And once you have the ID document done, then the fight begins, because then it's your driver's license, if you have a university degree, everything, everything.
Oh wow, and you're a doctor. Shame for you. Roderick, any discrimination on your side when you wanted to change your identity like that?
Well, luckily for me, I actually didn't experience such torment from them, because it didn't take such a long time.
Yeah.
But the only thing that, like Anastasia was saying, that, you know, the battle is when all of these other places come into play, which is getting a job, be it, because there was a point where I have my my ID, right? But now my certificate, school certificate, is still registered under my old name. Yeah, so now I need to explain each and every time to them, I have 2 different ID numbers. Why do you have 2 different ID numbers? So it's a tedious process, but yeah.
So why can't it just be the same ID number and you change your name? Is that like illegal? Because you're still born on the same day. I understand that it is a rebirth for you, but if I'm not gonna give my full ID number. I know y'all, well a dodge, but I'm just gonna give the first 6. So mine is 840519, right? So that doesn't change. Regardless of whether I transition into being a man or I stay as a woman, I'll always be born 840519.
Every individual has ID numbers.
Yeah.
And because of the coding, and like the last 3 digits are not the same or whatsoever.
Yeah.
Or the last 7 digits of ID numbers. And once you start transitioning, because the recording and how the system, in fact, the system was so heteronormative. And I think we need to think about it in that way, that we recorded people according to their sex. Now, the issue is male's digits will end with, or female will end with 082 or 089 whatsoever. So when you have a transgender person who's transitioning and is registering, and the system still applies that same thing. I mean, one of the things that we need to clarify as well when you speak about biological aspect, you know, when a child is born, it's either born male, female, or intersex. Now, intersex is the 3rd sex that we never speak about. And we need to literally go back and change the system on how it left certain population behind.
So is that the new I now in LGBTI?
I has always been there. It's just never have been spoken about. So if you talk, let's look at the issue that we had a couple of years ago around Caster Semenya.
Yes.
You understand? And here you're talking about an intersex individual. An intersex, and it's not only a particular person, it's very diverse intersex individuals, and education is needed doctors and parents often decide in the maternity ward, in the labor ward,
if this person is going to be
absolutely
male
to
or
choose
female.
a particular sex that is a norm to our population. And those are the things that we need to unlearn, that we leave intersex children. They have rights.
They must decide for themselves.
Absolutely, because they are bodily in problematic issues that once you start operating, when they get to the age of 3, when they get to the age of 18, the body changes, and there's nothing that you can do to a human body up until the person can determine.
That is actually quite interesting. Listen, time for a quick break. When we return, we'll look at some of the challenges faced when seeking medical treatment. And I want to talk about the high surge of violence against transgender people. We'll talk about that after the break. Yo. And for the last time, welcome back. As we all remember, there was plenty media hype around Bruce Jenner coming out as Caitlyn. It was seen as a watershed moment in transgender visibility worldwide, and obviously with the fame that came with being one of the Kardashians. But for many transgender people, Caitlyn's experience and the reality of being transgender without the fame, the fortune, and the PR are worlds apart. And you had said this, that you find that the whole Caitlyn Jenner thing glamorized it. And when you're a normal person who just wants to wake up and go to work, it's just not the same experience.
Yeah, you know, the fact of the matter is we have this idea of what trans experience looks like, and we base that idea on standards that cater to cisgender people. You know, it's what do the masses want to see? How do we make this palatable? How do we make a quick buck off of it?
How do we make them comfortable?
How do we make them comfortable? Because there is something about trans experience that potentially makes people very uncomfortable. And the fact of the matter is that when we take these stories and we start packaging them and twisting them and misrepresenting them, what does it do to the people whose stories those are? You know, our lived experience gets lost along the way. And even for myself, I'm very conscious of it. The fact that I have written a book, that I get this platform, that I get to sit here and have this conversation with you, that is not the reality for trans people in this country. They are silenced. They are the subject of violence. They are bleeding and dying.
You said we're dying. What does that mean?
It means that we lose our lives either because we take them ourselves, and this is because there's no support. This is because we can't get access to basic healthcare, never mind hormone therapy, but basic healthcare. There are so many healthcare providers who will refuse to treat you if you're a trans person. And not just that, but we are being raped and beaten and murdered in the streets, in the townships. It's happening because we make people uncomfortable.
Roderick, have you ever experienced violence because of who you are?
Yeah, well, it's something that I hardly ever talk about, and not many people know about it. But 3 years back, what happened was that I was actually involved in a, well, what you would call a gang rape. Yeah, basically, like she says, that because you make people feel uncomfortable. I guess for them, that's how they felt, and yeah, brutally beaten, and yeah, still recovering psychologically, emotionally, yeah.
Apart from having to be, you know, go through the psycho transitioning of who you are, now you have to deal with the fact that people violated you.
Yeah, it's
what are we going to do about the violence? Because it's, I mean, I was reading the one in Cape Town where who kicks your teeth in for something that you are? What are we doing about the violence? I mean, and this is what your organization does. Who are we speaking to in government, policing, constitutionally, the courts? And I don't see anybody going to jail.
Yeah, you see, we have quite a lot of hate crime cases in South Africa, and we're seeing a rise. Just this month alone, we're talking about Smouse in Free State, who was burned beyond recognition because she was lesbian. We're talking about Lerato Moloi just this weekend in Soweto. She was raped and stoned to death. We're talking about quite a lot of people, including transgender community. What we need to be doing it's not only about who we're talking about. We have to go back to communities. Why is it happening in our own society? Why is it happening in our families? Because often, hate crime happens to identified community. You have to be visible that hate crime takes place because there's a motive that you are hated, you are discriminated. It's because you are visible. You make people uncomfortable. So those realities must confront. But there are quite a number of root causes. Patriarchy, poverty, all of these issues that we need to be addressing. And the fact that men feels that they have power over women's body, over men's body who are challenging the standards and norms that we live under and the conditions that we live under. The economic issue, which is big as well. And a lot of hate crime also happens because our own families and our own communities treat us different. So the fact that you're not taking care of or you don't love your LGBTI child in the house, whether they identify in any of the identities there, if you don't take care of them, who else will if you don't show it? So it starts also with the family, but also it goes in our own communities. What are churches doing? Because also churches
patriarchy.
Are pushing patriarchy, are spreading hatred, and whereas they are supposed to be spreading love and hope and compassion, all of that. But also, what is government doing within our own constitution that we've had for 23 years? Yes, there are a number of sectors and structures that are formulated. The national task team, you have the provincial task team to end violence on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. There are sectors like the LGBTi sector that is complemented by the National AIDS Council and many other structures. But it won't get us anywhere if we don't invest in prevention agenda. Too many councils and not enough. Absolutely. And not enough counseling. Absolutely. It's my cry. There's so many, groups and then we all have a conference and we sit and we talk about it. The bottom line is South Africa is at war with itself. I just feel like people are being killed every so much day. Violence. There's just violence. Yes. There is violence, and I'm a person who likes to read up and know a lot of things, but even I'm at a loss for words when it comes to that. I don't know what it is we're going to do. And we don't feel safe in our own homes. It's just that's there. We don't feel safe in our own homes. And where do we start? And somebody was talking, in fact, this morning I've just received a message, a young lesbian woman who was raped, and she was even kicked out of her house because the family thinks it's going to be putting everyone at risk. She must get out of the house. And these are realities. Like the flu, don't you know? But also the rejection, the level of rejection in services. LGBTI people don't access services because they fear discrimination. They fear to be rejected. And it's unacceptable that we're sitting here and we're talking about the citizens of this country and LGBTI are treated as second-class citizens. Wow. Anastasia, literally 10 seconds, wrap it up for me.
Yeah, I just want to say, it's, we have to come to the party. Everyone has to come to the party. If someone's making jokes about gay people, if someone's making remarks about someone who's trans, if someone is saying, oh, I want to beat them, rape them, kill them, whatever, it's our responsibility, it's your responsibility to say no, to say that's not okay, to say we are South African, these are our brothers, our sisters, our siblings. We won't tolerate it.
Roderick, literally 10 seconds, wrap it up for me.
Well, apart from compassion, understanding, love, I'd also just say, people just keep an open mind. Also, if you don't understand something, don't hate it. Learn.
Okay. Guys, thank you so much. This has been something else. Oh, thank you to everyone in studio today for sharing their stories so candidly, and not forgetting psychologist Ethelwyn Rebelo. This has certainly been enlightening for me, and I hope it was for you too. Discrimination, fear, and hate born from a lack of knowledge has never been a positive contributor to any society. Tune in tomorrow for another social ill we need to confront head-on, the epidemic of women killed by their intimate partners. We tomorrow put the spotlight on femicide South Africa. We simply have to do better. Join me again tomorrow. Bye-bye.